Welcome to Med Room Chronicles, Nursing Uncensored. Join nurses and other care providers as they let you in on discussions usually reserved for the privacy of the locked medication room. In this weekly nursing podcast, the filters come off and we tell it like it is. Your hosts, nurses Adrianne Behning, Andrew Craig, and Brad McLaughlin, are here to educate and entertain on all things in the nursing world. This podcast is intended for nursing students, nurses, or anyone who wants a sneak peek into the real world of bedside nursing. So join us, laugh along the way, and maybe learn a little something too. Thanks for listening, guys. Hello, nurses. Here at Med Room Chronicles, we may be uncensored, but we are not unfiltered. Protected health information has been changed and concealed to comply with HIPAA. The things we talk about are combinations of years of experience with thousands of patients, things we've read, or stories we've heard. If you think we're talking about you, we're not. Also, we're real nurses here to provide accurate and helpful information, but don't take us as fact without doing your own research. Refer to your state's Board of Nursing, Practice Acts, and your institution's policies and procedures if you have questions about your practice. Lastly, our very strong opinions are ours alone and do not reflect that of our employers or educational institutions. Thanks for listening, and happy nursing, folks. Hello, fellow nurses. My name is Adrianne, and you are listening to the Med Room Chronicles. I'm here today with fellow nurse and friend Andrew Craig, and we are here today to talk about who we are and why we are here. Hello, Andrew.
Hey, Adrian, how are you?
I'm good. How are you doing?
I am super pumped about starting this podcast. I think folks out there will find it really interesting to hear about our stories as nurses and kind of the some of the things that we go through on a day-to-day basis. And so I'm really looking forward to getting started with you today.
Yeah, me too. Thanks for joining me. All right, so first maybe let's tell our listeners who you are. Sure. You have quite the interesting background, and kind of give us your best spiel here, Andrew.
Oh, sure. So, where do I begin? I've been a nurse, right? I've been a nurse for about 4 years. I got my nursing license in April 2012, and I didn't always want to be a nurse. I kind of fell into it. When I graduated high school, I did some experimenting for a few years and ultimately decided to go back to college thinking I was going to be a paramedic. That was going fine. That was the track I was going for.
What was that just like one of the adventurous, sexy ways to be in healthcare, or what was
That's exactly it. I had no idea what I wanted to do. I liked medical shows. I had no medical family members. I had no healthcare experience. And I was like, wow, that looks badass. So I think I'll try that out. That was the rationale at the time. And job security, because we all know that everybody's sick. Mm-hmm. And there'll always be jobs. So that was my thinking, was it looked cool and I was going to have a job. And I ultimately volunteered at a local ER in Rock Island, Illinois. And I had a lot of exposure to nurses. And I thought that was even more badass at the time than paramedics, just because I didn't spend any time with paramedics. I didn't even know what they did. And I changed tracks. I found out my community college had a nursing program, and I was fortunate enough I was able to take one more semester of prereqs and then get into the nursing program after a year of community college. And that's how this whole adventure started. I ultimately graduated. That was challenging as hell, as we all know.
Indeed.
And I ended up working at a nursing home, a couple nursing homes out of college for a couple of years, and then ended up at the University of Iowa as a step-down pulmonary nurse, where I met you, and you were a CNA at the time. Time flies, right?
I was. Yes, it does.
Crazy.
That seems like a million years ago, but it wasn't really that long ago.
It wasn't. And I've grown. It's funny. I've grown so much since then in terms of, professional experience. And, long story short, I ended up getting my BSN online through Western Governors University. And then currently I'm working on a master's of nursing in nursing informatics. And
Andrew, yeah.
I just like to stay busy. I'm just always working on something. My wife, Sarah, is wonderful. She's also a nurse, but she lets me do my little projects, fortunately. So she's very supportive and wonderful. And so what we're doing now is we're travel nursing. We're moving around the country pretty frequently, about every 3 to 6 months. And that's the spiel. That's my short nursing story. I love it.
And just to clarify for those listening, you guys are not just traveling together, but you're working on the same units, working the same schedules. So we don't have to get too deep into that now, but we are going to talk about that at some point because
that's fine.
I think that deserves its own show, though. That deserves its own dedicated topic. So how many hospitals have you been to so far? 4?
Sure. Well, including the University of Iowa, we've been to 4. We've worked in Iowa City, Iowa, Minneapolis, Minnesota, Klamath Falls, Oregon, and Madison, Wisconsin, which is our current assignment. We're going to be here until December, and then we're hoping to skip a Midwest winter and go to Hawaii or California.
Oh, my goodness. I didn't know that was your plan, but how could it not be?
Right? I didn't tell you?
No.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's, Midwest winters suck ass. And,
they do.
The last thing I would say about my nursing story is I'm very involved online in the travel nursing community. I'm working on a lot of projects in that realm. And I've got a little bit of an entrepreneurial, mindset, so I'm constantly trying to try new things and hopefully build a business online related to nursing. And so that's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
And here we are. Here's another piece of that puzzle. So you're actively working towards your goals. Well, great. Thank you for telling us about yourself. I'm sure we'll learn more as time goes on. And, I know that you've got quite a lot of valuable experience. You've seen quite a bit even after just you guys have been traveling a year now?
Yeah, almost 2 years now.
Wow.
It'll be 2 years. Well, a year and a half. I round up.
Sure.
Yeah.
I was going to say, where have I been? Oh, yeah, in nursing school.
Right. Well, I think it's a good time to tell me a little bit about your story, Adrianne. It's a great one. Yeah.
So we, like you said, we met working at the University of Iowa. I was a nursing assistant. I was in my 9th or 10th year of nursing assistantship, if you can call it that, when we met. And actually, let me back it up. I'll give you the short version of the long story. So back in I'd say my early to mid 20s, I had, a huge relationship end and had a lot of transition in my life. And one of my good friends at the time said, I know you're looking for a job, and I think you'd be great at home care. And I was really resistant to it because it wasn't something I'd been into. I had worked in an office before that selling insurance, if you can believe that. Mm-hmm. I was licensed in 9 states to sell and amend auto insurance policies. But anyway, that's a former life. That's I can't even believe that. It feels like a movie, not me. Anyway, so this friend said, I think you'd be really good at this home care job. The hours are really good. The pay is crappy, but the people are wonderful. So I took this job. I was making $7.95 an hour. This was probably in 2003, 2004. And I worked, the plus side was, so I would work, my shifts were 20-hour shifts. And I would it was basically home care for people in an apartment setting, in a community setting. And so there were 3 women that I took care of. They all had varying levels of disability, and I would pick them up from wherever they had been during the day, work, school, day program, whatever, would take them home, live their lives in the evening. I would help them to bed. I had the option to sleep, but I didn't, which is actually where my life as a night shifter began, was staying up all night. And then, I'd sleep a few hours, wake up the next morning, get them all, help them, in their processes of independently getting ready as much as they could, and would get them to the bus or the whatever, get them to school in their day program, and then my shift would end. I would work 2 shifts a week. Everything else was overtime. So it was possible, that I would work a ton of hours in a week. So I really got good at it. I got to like what I was doing. I also had my first injury as a healthcare provider, which that also is another show. Oh, look at the topics just rolling on in. But so I did that job for a few years and really liked it, but knew that I wasn't getting paid, as most people in that kind of home care situation don't get paid what they deserve for heavy work. But then I applied at the university for a CNA position because somebody again said, "Hey, you'd be really good at this." Apparently, I needed people to tell me what I was good at in my 20s. But I applied for a job and then, didn't hear anything for a really, really long time, forgot about it, went about my business, took a job as a floater among all of these different houses in my community, all these different, home-based basically assisted living. I did that for a while, and then out of the blue got a call and said, "Hey, we've got a couple interviews for you." I interviewed first in the ER or in the emergency department, and I was so excited and overjoyed because of the pay and the benefits and just everything that came with it, that I think I freaked that nurse manager out. I think I went in there. I was so excited, bubbly, chirpy. I'm sure that I sounded manic.
Yeah.
It was probably she's probably like, "I probably should triage you and not interview you."
Oh my God, a little side note. I totally bombed an interview at that very same hospital because I was so overjoyed to get out of the nursing home that I'm like, "Oh my God, an interview!
You're like,
what do I do?"
Oh,
it was so bad. In retrospect, it was so bad, Adrianne. It was pathetic. Anyway, carry on. I've been there.
Yeah. So I didn't get that job, but then I actually interviewed on the neurosurgery floor, and what sealed the deal with me getting that job was that a lot of the people I'd been taking care of had spinal cord injuries. So I was doing lifts and using Hoyers and dealing with, all of the things that come along with brain injury, spinal cord injury, confusion, that sort of thing. So I think I was just kind of a natural neuro CNA. So I worked on the neuro unit, which I now lovingly refer to as CNA boot camp, because it really is. I learned so much, but that is such an intense job that I don't think that I could do it. I mean, we do see some neuro and respiratory with neuromuscular stuff, but so I worked there for 4 years, and a few times towards the end of that 4 years, I floated a few times to units that I really, really liked, and I was like, "Oh my God, you mean everywhere isn't nursing boot camp hell? This is amazing." So I joined the float pool, and the boyfriend I got at that time, who now is the man I've been with for 10 years, was like, "You need to go back to school." And, I had a couple part-time semesters that I didn't do very well at, and then I thought, well, hey, I need to fucking do this, and if I'm ever going to, unless I want to be 70 and taking people off bedpans. So I started doing prereqs, and I did all my prereqs to get into a particular school that I wanted. I didn't get in, so then I had to do a different set of prereqs for a different school, and I ended up going to the community college 30 minutes north of here, which, as someone who didn't own a reliable vehicle, that took all but an act of God and community to get me through nursing school.